Welcome back to Rockstock Channel. It's July 2nd, and Rodney and I recently attended the Fastmarkets Lithium Conference in Las Vegas. At the Live Lounge booth, we had the opportunity to sit down and chat with several lithium industry players. We spoke with Iggy Tan from Lithium Universe, Anton, chairman of Savannah Resources and Manganese, Daniel Abdo of Sigma Lithium, YJ from Arcane Capital, Alicia Milne of Q2 Metals, JP Vargas from Galan Lithium, and Gabriel Rubacha from NOAA Lithium Brines. Despite the current cautious sentiment in the lithium market, our conversations revealed a strong underlying optimism. Companies like Lithium Universe highlighted their strategic advantages with cost-effective conversion facilities in Quebec, leveraging low-cost hydropower. Anton emphasized the critical role of local engagement and strategic partnerships for Savannah Resources in Portugal and Manganese in the Czech Republic. Sigma Lithium underscored Brazil's advantages in producing green, critical minerals, driven by abundant resources and renewable energy. Meanwhile, market analysts like YJ remain bullish, citing emerging demand drivers in energy storage and electric trucks. Exploration stories, such as Q2 Metals, continue to impress with significant new discoveries in Quebec, while Galan Lithium and NOAA Lithium Brines, both attracting strategic investment from clean elements, are advancing high-grade brine projects in Argentina. The overall mood indicates that, despite short-term challenges, strategic investments, robust projects, and innovative technologies are positioning the industry for a resilient and promising future. Please note that none of this should be considered investment advice. Please do your own research and read the disclaimer at the end of the video.
Okay, great. We're back here at the Fastmarkets Conference in Vegas. The man himself, Iggy Tan, good to chat to you yesterday. It will be nice to give some feedback to followers and listeners. Can you just recap for us the DFS that you completed earlier this year, some of the metrics and your thoughts around getting that supplied?
Okay, great. Yeah, nice to see you again. We completed the DFS in February this year. Excellent economics. We purposely use quite low forecast prices for spodumene and lithium carbonate. The NPV for the project's close to 700 million US. It generates around an EBITDA of 148 million per annum. So very exciting news. We are now moving forward to securing the spodumene supply for the refinery. So as you know, the refinery is based in Bécancour in Quebec. One of the important questions is, can we compete with China in conversion? The answer is well and truly yes. We have access to cheap hydropower. We're very close to the resources in Canada. So, for example, if you're a spodumene producer today in Canada and you have to ship all that spodumene to China and back as a lithium carbonate product, it'll add you $1,300 a ton of lithium carbonate. So that's significant. So with cheap power and also Canada has tariffs on lithium chemicals coming from China, 25%. You add all that up, we're actually cheaper in conversion compared to China. So if you're going to build a refinery somewhere in the world, well, if you build it in Asia, you're going to compete with China. North America means it is quite remote and you can actually build. We believe there's a vision for a conversion center in Quebec for the North Atlantic region.
And Iggy, just a bit more color on your thoughts around what sort of offtake or spodumene that you need in supply to be comfortable that you've got a decent time horizon?
Yeah, so we have discussions with producers as well as non-producers or potential producers for spodumene feeding the refinery. So we would require a feedstock starting 2028, and we're looking for a 10-year supply at least, and then rolling 5 years. So 140,000 tons of spodumene per annum. So discussions are ongoing. And meanwhile, we're also having discussions of potential offtake for the battery-grade lithium carbonate. So as you know, we're making a very high-grade lithium carbonate. It's going to feed into the LFP batteries, and so there are a lot of interests for that offtake as well.
And it would then make sense then to be looking at potential suppliers within reasonable proximity to where you.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Canada is we're right on the beck and call, the river there. So most of spodumene coming out of Quebec will go past it. So
yeah, I've done a visit to Bécancour, so I know it's a very organised industrial centre. So
yeah.
it's a great spot.
Yeah.
And then some more exciting news, which I think looks good, but obviously you'd need to prove out the concept, is the latest project. So give everyone an idea what you've just executed.
Yeah, so we feel that we've done everything for the lithium project, and our strategy was always a counter-cyclical strategy. Get ready for when the market recovers. Our view is that when it recovers, it'll recover very strongly. And so we're in a good position there, but the opportunity came up where we could acquire a solar PV recycling technology. So the technology is owned by Macquarie University. It's called microwave dual heating technology. So essentially the problem is that today 15% of PV cells in the world is recycled. The rest ends up in landfill. And in Australia, 37% of roof space in Australia has solar panels. So Australia actually generates close to 16-17% of electricity from household solar panels. And the problem is, in 20 years' time, they're all going to end up in landfill because only 15% actually get recycled. They estimated that 87 million tons of discarded solar panels will be end up in landfill. So the technology today is essentially to recycle it. They shred the solar panels, they grind it up, and they use high temperature, 1,400 degrees Celsius, to extract the EVA. It's like the resin that holds the silicon wafer together. And then they use very toxic chemicals like hydrofluoric acid and sulfuric acid to remove that EVA from the other materials. And then in that process, a lot of the valuable materials like silver, indium and gallium ends up in that acid solution, and it actually goes to landfill. So the process is not very efficient. Macquarie developed a technology where they use microwaves, just exactly the same microwave oven that you have in your kitchen. And by putting that solar panel in microwave heating, it actually heats up specifically just the silicon wafer and starts to delaminate from the EVA very efficiently. And so essentially you just extract the silicon wafer from that without destroying it and so on. So we're interested in extracting.
So just to be clear, then you can extract those minerals out of there as opposed to it going into the.
Yeah, as opposed to being grinding up, and so you don't need high temperature, and you don't need any toxic chemicals like acids and so on. So the challenge now is to take that silicon wafer, and what's the valuable minerals in that, critical metals? Silver. And you're very familiar with silver, indium and gallium. You maybe want to comment about the demand for silver.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's, at around $36 an ounce and only growing. So, and I think there's just under an ounce, I think it's about 20 grams in each cell. Yeah. In each, panel. So
yeah. There's quite a famous quote from the Energy Commission that says the amount of silver in solar panels in landfill today accumulates to the largest silver mine in Australia. And so that's the attraction for us. And of course, there's also indium, gallium, and all those valuable metals.
So just to be clear, do they have a patent on that?
Yeah, they got a couple of patents pending on that heating technology,
Right.
And we're keen to work with them because our team has a lot of chemical experience and chemical extraction experience to develop a commercial process. So very exciting.
So if you've done a deal with them, will that technology and those patents then be yours?
Exactly. We
So
own.
you could then do other arrangements with other parties around the world to do the same
Yes,
technology?
technically, but our vision is to develop the technology and commercialize it. So, but the big message here is we're not going away from lithium. We are lithium. We have a bullish outlook on lithium, but while we wait for the market to recover, this is another exciting opportunity.
Yeah, no, it sounds good because what's going on right now doesn't sound like very clean energy to me with how they're getting disposed of or dealt with now. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Okay,
And then what it allowed us, this acquisition allowed us to raise money. We raised $1.7 million, and the market was very excited about it. So.
That's great. And any other sort of big milestones coming up in the next while?
I think as we work through the offtake and also all the development news flow from this new technology.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Iggy. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, welcome, Rick, Anton. The first time we've had you as an interview on a podcast, but we've known each other a long time. Rick, you're one of the legends in the industry as a co-founder and general counsel of Orocobre, which became Allchem and then Arcadium and now Rio Tinto. But you have come out of a retirement, I think, once the merger was complete last year, and are now chairman of two companies in the battery material space, and I guess a third in the offing. But the two we're going to speak about are Savannah Resources, which is plain vanilla hard rock spodumene in Portugal, and also you're in Europe, in the Czech Republic with Euro Manganese. So why'd you join Savannah, who has a partnership actually with AMG, a spodumene producer, and I think a hydroxide maker as well?
Yeah, that's correct. But I think I'd rather be known as a survivor than a legend, because this, as Iggy, your previous speaker, would know, this market or this industry has a lot of ups and downs. It's got a trajectory which no one can actually predict, and hanging in there and following it through, I think, is the most important thing in surviving, particularly in these downturns. So it was quite a journey over a 15, 18-year period with Orocobre through the mergers with Galaxy and then with Livent and ultimately to the Rio takeover. So when I left the Allchem organisation immediately after the Arcadium, and then took a few months off, but I was approached in the middle of last year by the then board of Savannah to come on as chair. Looked at the project, looked at it bottom up, which is an appropriate thing to do, and it's a good project. It's in it's a as you said, a standard lithium project, and it was something where, after having worked in the industry for as long as I had, it's somewhere where I thought I had something to offer to that board. So I was happy to take the position on, and we've been progressing the project since then.
Okay, and this is it got critical mineral status by the European Commission recently.
Yeah, strategic project status. Yeah.
Right, and it is in Portugal. You're listed in London.
AIM listed, yes.
AIM listed, so not super known, in Australia and elsewhere where we have a substantial audience, or you're not maybe benchmarked as obviously. I think what's the market cap approximately? Do you know?
It's about £100 million. So.
£100 million, and you're at PFS level, or is DFS?
No, there's been a PFS was issued a number of years ago, so we're working through the DFS exercise now, and we would anticipate delivering the DFS around about the end of this year.
Okay, and the stock's performed well. We've commented about this relative to many other peers. There was a large spike. I think that there's been a Portugalization of your story a bit with both the share register and the new CEO, and so can you just talk about that?
Yeah, I think one of the lessons that came out from Oro Cobre is if you're working in countries like we were in Argentina, it's important that from a number of levels that they become local companies and not fly in, fly out Australian operations. And it was important with coinciding with my coming on as chair. There was an appointment of a local CEO. The project had been had its ups and downs over a 6 or 7 year period, but it's made substantial progress over the last 18 months because of the emphasis that the company's put on local engagement, employing local senior people. In fact, employing local people all the way through the organisation. So, as I said, it's made a lot of progress, and it was it's in world terms, it's a relatively it's not a giant project, but it has attracts outside interest in a relatively small country like Portugal, because I think we're the only likely new mining development for some significant time.
Okay, and could you describe the relationship with AMG? I remember looking at it. I think they wrote like a $15 million check.
They did. So AMG, they're a strategic shareholder. So they wrote a check and took a strategic stake in the company. And AMG is a company with a diverse range of technical skills. So they're a very good match for us. They have the lithium. There are lithium operations in Brazil, and they have a hydroxide conversion plant in Bittenfeld, which they opened last year. So a good fit and a good partner going forward. They have some offtake rights and the ability to increase the size of those offtake rights depending on how financing runs over the next 6 to 12 months.
Right. I remember when I looked at it, it provided you some financing. It gave them some optionality, but it also left open a lot of optionality for you to have other partners.
Yeah. So currently the transaction, the project is scoped at circa 200,000 tonnes of spodumene concentrate. They have an offtake for 45,000 tonnes, and the potentiality, depending on financing, to increase that to double that. That will still leave us with at least half of the project, at least half of that 200,000 tonnes as offtake for other partners should we wish to go down that path.
Okay, so milestones this year or DFS later in the year. Do you think you can make an FID this year or next year?
No, there won't be. I mean, the sequence needs to be, obviously we get the DFS done, and then we'll try and move to FID within 6 months after that.
And on the permitting side, what do you need to tick off there?
We have, in simple terms, with the Portuguese process, we have the overarching permit, which then guides us as to the gaps and the studies that we need to deliver into, which we're going through, and we're anticipating that will conclude that what's called the recape process. That recape process will be concluded at about the same time that we complete the DFS.
Okay, great. And have you appointed bankers to, is there a process underway for funding?
There's a process, but there's been no formal appointments then.
Right, okay. And just tell us quickly about European Euro Manganese.
I've just taken on that role. It's been around for a little while, Euro Manganese, and effectively it is a chemical treatment process to produce high purity manganese sulfate and high purity manganese metals. Its resource base consists of a very large pile of tailings outside of Prague, which came from historic pyrite mining, and which grade 5%, 6%, 7% in manganese. So the mining, it's a project with zero mining risk, which is always interesting because there's a cohesive pile of tailings which are all graded and sized and just have a bit of dirt over the top. The real project is building a processing plant which will take those tails and then produce the high purity manganese. So I've just stepped into that role in the sort of a matter of weeks or months that I've been there, and we're currently undergoing an assessment process of where the project is and how we take that forward. So it's a little bit of watch this space, and we'll get some progress on there.
Okay, great. One of our guests, Matt Fernley, has talked up high purity manganese and the announcement by GM and LG Energy Solutions on the LMR
On the
battery
LMRs, yeah.
is a great tailwind.
Yep.
So we are watching the space. We are interested in plays in the high purity manganese space, and to be continued. Rick, thank
Indeed.
you very much for joining us, and to be continued on both. Look forward to interviewing you sometime in the future.
Pleasure. Thanks, Howard.
All right, we're here with Daniel Abdo from Sigma Lithium. We've interviewed Anna a couple of times, most recently a few weeks ago. But Daniel, why don't you just tell our audience what's your role at Sigma, and you're going to present later today on a Brazil panel what you intend to kind of talk about.
Sure. Thanks, Howard. Thanks for having me on. So I'm VP of International Relations and Business Development. So I've been filling in for Anna in a lot of these international events, so that you can focus more on the operations on the ground as we are scaling up our operations. So the panel I'll be on today is to talk about lithium producers in Brazil. And I think there are two main themes that are going to be discussed there. I mean, one, why is Brazil such an important player in the energy transition, specifically in critical minerals? I mean, one, we have an abundance of high quality natural resources. It's all over. I mean, no wonder we have a legacy in the mining industry of over a century. The state in which we operate in Brazil, it's called Minas Gerais, which translates directly to general mines. So it's something that's ingrained in our culture. Second, we're a low-cost jurisdiction. I mean, so we can be very competitive even in the current cycles. Third, and I think probably one of the most important ones, our energy grid is 90% renewable. So that puts us, at a great advantage in terms of producing green materials. And lastly, also, Brazil is a diplomatically neutral country. So we can do business with North America, with Europe, with Asia. And given the complex geopolitical situation of the world these days, that, it's a clear advantage for us to navigate this situation.
Okay, great. And Brazil we've known as an iron ore country for a long time, from Minas Gerais. So that's all very good. I spoke to Anna, I guess, before. She couldn't be here at this conference, but I think she's on her way to Tokyo or Asia or other things. Can you speak about any of the financing, the offtake and the prepay? Because that was a conversation we had with her in our last interview.
Sure. I mean, so far we've only done spot sales. On a month-by-month basis, we sell ships. And it's gotten to a point where the market is such at a volatile stage that it makes sense for us to seek an offtake agreement. And we are currently having several conversations with different parties, from the OEMs to trading companies. And we'll probably do something that'll be along the lines of about a third of our current capacity for a 3-year period. And we hope to close that by the end of the summer.
End of the summer, okay. Because I know there's been some overhang to the stock or some concern about near-term principal repayments of size while the spodumene price has been declining. Okay, and any comments on, I guess, your expansion beyond your current production?
Sure. So we've already, phase 2 will add another 250,000 tons of capacity, pretty much doubling our current capacity. We have finished all of the earthworks. We are in the process of starting the civil works. We did secure financing from the Brazilian Development Bank, about $80 million of that. We are right now trying to get a letter of credit to go along with that so they can start ordering long lead items to build the plant. So the expectation is, we should probably 10 to 12 months to get this thing done.
Okay, excellent. Appreciate the update, Daniel, and thank you for taking the time. I know you just squeezed us in here early this morning.
Thank you, Howard.
Okay,
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Great. YJ, good to have you in the chair here at the the Fastmarkets Lithium Conference. How's the conference going for you so far?
Good morning, Rodney. It was confessing, just too early in the morning. It's great. It's an awesome conference. I'm meeting so many people. It's just incredible.
You must be a very popular man with your after your presentation yesterday and your call. Just give the listeners an idea of your outlook for lithium out to 2030?
Okay, I have raised my outlook again. So right now my 2030 number is 4.6 million tons, mostly driven by energy storage and what nobody else is talking much about, electric trucks.
Okay, so I see, I've just seen the latest report from Bloomberg. Vans and trucks were only 8% EV share, I think, as of last year or whatever it is, versus EV cars 26% and buses 43%. So it's quite low penetration for now. You're seeing a lot of scope in that market.
Yes, so this is the adoption curve, right? Once you hit 5%, it goes to 20 really, really quick. So what we are seeing is that in China, electric truck sales are more than doubling from last year. Last year, they sold 75,000 heavy electric trucks in China. This year, they're on track to sell 160,000.
And what sort of battery pack size are we talking in these?
Heavy trucks, right? So we are talking 600, 800 kilowatt hours.
Okay, and is sodium ion or any other sort of possibly mixed chemistries or what have you a risk or not in your mind?
Not really, no. At this lithium price and with the scale of lithium battery production, the bill of materials matters much, much less today. So we are actually seeing sodium batteries being about 30 to 50% more expensive than lithium batteries right now. In fact, there are some sodium companies recently which have more or less just stopped operations.
And YJ, in terms of exports for heavy trucks, is that a thing that can be rolled out smoothly?
Oh, of course. So this is one thing. This is the industrial business, right? Mining, heavy trucks in mining, heavy trucks in hauling. So these are things that will switch over to electrify immediately because these are the high-use vehicles. These pay back really, really quick.
Right, so some of them could be running long shifts, and you reckon, what sort of time frame are you talking about for payback?
Well, it depends really on exactly which country and what price you are paying and whether you're going through any tariffs and things like that.
Right.
But yeah, they generally are a lot cheaper to run than their ICE versions. So the operating cost for electric vehicles is usually about 80-85% lower than fuel burning vehicles.
And repairs, no doubt, as well.
Of course. I mean, much simpler engine, no gearbox, things like that.
So you've mentioned, I think it was 75 and then 160 for this year. What sort of size can that market get to? How big is that market? To be honest, I'm not overly familiar.
Yeah, so that number was just for heavy trucks in China. But if we want to look at the broad trucking market, it sells about 7.5 million units per year for medium and heavy trucks. So I'm thinking that by 2030, a third of the market could be electric. That means about 2.5 million units being electric, and at an average battery size of not 6 to 800, but only 340 kilowatt hours. That translates into a lithium demand of 630 kilotons. That's half of last year's demand.
Right. So that's a very meaningful number then.
Yes, and this is something that, an upside to analyst forecasts, which I think not enough people are talking about yet.
Because it was interesting, I saw in your presentation in the chart, you also said you exclude AI, robotics, any of the other things, eVTOL, whatever. So there's still other areas that are not included in your forecast.
Yeah, well, to be honest, AI and robotics and these things, the batteries are small.
Yes.
They are not being produced in large numbers yet. There could be a pretty significant demand uplift from perhaps ships, river vessels, passenger ferries. These carry batteries of 40, 50 megawatt hours each. Massive batteries,
yes.
But I'm not modeling those in.
Okay, and then even if I strip out and take that adjustment for the heavy vehicles, that must mean that your energy storage number must be pretty meaningful as well then by 2030.
Yep. So we are not shy about putting a large number out there. The base case for us is about 1.5 terawatt hours of storage in 2030, and I think an addressable market out there could be 2.6 terawatt hours in that year. We don't have enough lithium for that, but I think that is at least the addressable market.
Okay, well, I'm at 1.4, so I don't feel bad. So
okay.
we're pretty close. I mean, I was an outlier at 1 terawatt a couple of years ago, and everyone looked at me strangely. Now look where we are, but that's how this market works at these prices. Your thoughts on the bigger form factor batteries? I saw someone testing out an 1100 AH battery.
Wow, okay.
So, I mean, what you can put in a container these days is getting crazy. So,
yeah, I mean, we've gone from about, I think, was it 3 megawatt hours in the Tesla Megapack to right now CATL going as high as 9. Yeah, so it's going places.
And I guess my point is, with a bigger form factor, the longer duration market is coming into play now. So, I don't know if I don't know enough about the technical limitations on the form factor, but it looks like you could be getting easily into the 8 to 12 hour storage market with these.
Okay. So let me try to change the paradigm here a little bit. It does not need to be 8 to 12 hours continuous. So what's happening in China, and this is really what is driving their super low payback periods. In fact, let me throw a couple of numbers out there. Commercial ESS is now paying back at less than 2 years. Grid ESS is paying back in less than 5 years. How is commercial ESS paying back so quickly? They are doing double charge, double discharge. Okay, this I learned from our friend, one of our friends here at actually at Fastmarkets.
Right.
Yeah, so what they do is that they charge in midday, as you would expect, and discharge in the evening, but they also charge midnight and discharge in the morning. So one battery goes through 2 charge-discharge cycles in a single day.
Well, and they've got a great cycle life. So this is all, they've still got, I mean, what are they, 8,000, 10,000 even, some of it?
Well, actually, I think for LFP, we are at about 12 to 15,000 these days, the newest ones. So, I mean, if you do a single charge-discharge cycle, that's 30 to 40 years. If you do double charge-discharge cycles, it's still a good 15, 20 years.
And you're getting a payback in 2 to 5 years.
Exactly.
So that's, and they're fairly robust, they don't break down.
Nope. They're great nowadays. So what's happening is that with these economics driving the system, people are just buying them, putting them in, right? And with the sheer amount of solar being put in place, 600 gigawatts across the world last year, and I think
93 gigawatts in 1 month, last month in May.
Exactly, right? So we've already reached the point where wholesale power prices go negative in the middle of the day. You cannot really install more solar without pairing it with batteries.
So regardless of government legislation, you need batteries just from an economic perspective.
Exactly. And the more EVs we sell, the more electricity demand will go. In fact, I did a little fun calculation. Every using a assumed number of kilometers per vehicle type, cars, taxis, trucks, and all that. Add it all together, this year's EV sales probably consume 116 terawatt hours extra of electricity demand. Stack it up with next year, all the way to 2030, we reach a bar higher than AI data centers' electricity demand.
Right.
Yes, so we need more electricity just to run the EVs that are being sold.
So I saw a very impressive chart of how much renewables produced of China's electricity demand, and I think it got to 26% recently. So where do you think they're going to clean the whole grid, or where do you think there's a capping out or not?
They will not immediately clean the whole grid. It's going to be phased, it's going to be gradual. Government is going to balance, of course, security of generation with cheap renewable. So they're going to have everything. So they're going to announce a lot of nuclear projects even, but just look at the numbers. They install maybe 10 gigawatts of nuclear a year, and they install 300 gigawatts of, peak, right, of solar, which translates into about 60, maybe on the 20% factor, maybe about 6 times as much nuclear per year.
So you see this growth basically can continue for some time.
Oh, definitely. So how China is installing, hundreds of gigawatts a year of solar is they're simply putting it in the deserts. So one of the largest, I think still the largest solar plants in the world right now is a 5 gigawatt plant called Mitong in Mitong in Xinjiang. And it only cost them about $2 billion to build. It generates power at 2 cents per kilowatt hour. And it just sprawls over entire desert land, unused, useless desert land, and now it generates electricity.
It's a bit like the Middle East. They've got similar sort of a sub 2 cents per kilowatt hour in some of the major gigawatt projects.
Yep, super high irradiation, free land, open land,
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. YJ, thanks very much for coming back on.
Thank you so much, Rodney.
Okay, next up we have Alicia Milne, CEO of Q2 Metals Corp., who has made a major discovery in Quebec. Last we saw you, Alicia, was at the Vancouver Resource Conference in January. What have you been up to since? I know there was another great hole, 151 meters yesterday announced.
Yeah.
So just tell us what you've been up to and what's next.
We've been working hard, drilling at Cisco. So we did a winter program where we drilled, I think it was close to 7,000 meters. So to date, there's 37 holes on the project, 38 holes on the project for about 15,000 meters. So, it's still early days, but what we've already defined with, like you mentioned, that 151 meter intercept, things like that, like we just keeping going, keeping our heads down, drilling, doing a lot of work. We have boots on the ground mid-May doing more regional mapping and sampling. And then we're working towards an exploration target right now.
Okay. So you're listed in Canada and your project is in Canada, but every time I speak to anyone in Australia, they're always asking me, what do I think about Q2? What do I think about Q2? It's like another Patriot discovery, a Patriot-like discovery, but you haven't yet put out a resource. So what is the expectation and timeline for that?
So we do need to do a bunch of infill drilling. Just the size of the mineralized zone at this point is about 1.5 kilometers by about 650 meters. So we did some aggressive step outs in the wintertime just to test the rest of the area. Now we're going to step back in. Some of those step outs were about 200 to 400 meters. So now we're coming back into about 100, 150 meters spacing on the drilling and start to more or less define it a bit better. So the exploration target is helping with that. The company that we hired, BBA, they've been advising Neil on, what sort of spacing they would like to see for the resource. So that'll be, I think we're projecting that maybe spring 2026.
For the resource to come out. Okay,
Yeah.
so still quite a bit more drilling to go over this time frame. There are a number of analysts, though, who I think use some software to have made some estimates. You can't say what those estimates are, but I've heard some very large numbers being put out there. But it would be very interesting. You have all these bubble charts that PLS put out, like their bubble chart in terms of size of resource out there, but you're not yet on those bubble charts because you haven't announced the resource.
Exactly. And that's what we're hoping the exploration target will do, is to be able to, like we can say, oh, Canaccord wrote a report on us or Argonaut wrote a report, but we can't actually speak to their numbers because they're not our numbers. So with this exploration target, it'll be done by an independent geologist, independent consultant, and they'll actually be assigning, a min-max to it, what the scale of it would look like. So then we can actually say, like, okay, we had this done. Now we can compare it to what other companies are and then say that there are peers or what have you as we work towards doing the resource.
And from a treasury point of view, I know last we spoke, you were having a bunch of warrant exercises coming in. So what's the status there?
Yeah, so we had, at our year end, we had about 13 million cash on hand. And then we had all those warrants come in. So right now, I think we're about 6 million cash on hand, fully funded for what we had planned for the next summer into the fall. We could even get to the winter if we just sort of slow play it. I mean, it's all sort of market dependent as well, seeing how the exploration target does. We have lots of news flow coming up because we're drilling right now. So, there's lots of things in the pipeline. We're doing met work, baselines, like we're just keeping our heads down and trying to move forward while the market sorts itself out around us and do the best we can.
And any comment just on the politics? You now have Mark Carney as the Prime Minister. He's been making some comments. I saw one of the Australians flagged to me that he's going to increase his defense spending, for NATO, but he was going to finance it with critical minerals development. So could you in the narrative because Trump has been kind of beating up on Canada, and lithium price has been down a bit. But I think now that he's in power, any insights you could give us on what's happening in Canada politically?
I mean, I don't have any insights. It would be nice to see projects moving forward. I mean, Canada has an abundance of natural resources. So to have a government that's pro pushing them forward, pro putting things into development, into production would be amazing to see. Streamlining some of the permitting policies, some of the procedures that you need to get to go into development would be nice to see. So yeah, I mean, we're still early stage, so it'll be interesting to see how it affects some of the other companies in our area and how quickly they can move forward. And we'll probably be a few years behind them. So changes now is good.
Well, hopefully viewers or YJ will be correct in his bullish forecast compared to some of the bears out there, because you have had all these fantastic results in a very bear market and in a different market environment. The Lassonde curve kind of exploration upside you've had to some degree, but much more muted than some of your peers. And when the market becomes bullish again, I think people will revisit, and hopefully going into Q1 or Q2 when you have your PEA, it'll be a much better environment. And so a lot of upside for those who are open and interested in taking exploration risk. You'll want to watch. Okay, thanks very much, Alicia.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have JP Vargas, the managing director of Galan Lithium, and the last time we interviewed you was here in Las Vegas at the Red Rock in the live lounge. So a lot's happened over the last year, but in particular, you've done a couple of financings in recent months, one of which was with Clean Elements, invested $20 million, I think, a week or two ago. And Clean Elements, our viewers may know of, has been a major investor in Noah Lithium Brines. So we've interviewed Noah a number of times and will again today. But we've also Ofer Amir, who is the founder of Clean Elements. So how we've interviewed. So talk about them as an investor and also the Lithium, ocean. And before even doing that, just kind of like remind us, you're in Argentina, plain vanilla brine, a very high grade. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks, Howard, for the interview. It's good to be back after a year. There's been a lot of progress from Galan's point of view in the last 12 months. We have received export permits for our lithium chloride, which is our main strategy to produce lithium chloride that's quite flexible to be treated into carbonate or even lithium metal down the track for solid-state batteries. Since then, we also got our phase 2 permits in January. After then, we have signed an offtake binding agreement with Lithium. Lithium is an Australian company that is going to be building a lithium carbonate plant in the US. So probably we'll be one of the few companies sending lithium units into the US once in production. And Galan expect to be in production in the first half of 2026. And look, there's an alignment then with Lithium because they're already shareholders and they bring the nanofiltration technology that is pretty much replacing our lithium liming plants and filtration for better technology to achieve this result. And thereafter, the last leg of financing came, as you point out, with Clean Element and office around the crowd today. It's been fantastic to receive their support. They are very contracyclical. They see the opportunity in the lithium market when everyone is running the other way. They actually want to commit into lithium because they believe in the lithium space, where it's going to go. They are bullish. They understand where things are, and probably similar views as many others that you've seen here in the panel. So there's $20 million to be invested in Galan, subject to due diligence, and that is a 77-day period. The due diligence already started. The site visit is happening. And there is a lot of things that they're doing, and potentially the due diligence could be shortened at the time period that the announcement said. And they were already shareholders of Galan, so it's I think that is a strong alignment with them and what they can do, and the successful story with Nova Lithium as well. So we're pleased to see where we're at. We'll be in production next year. And there's a lot of things happening in the background. There's a lot of interest, and this conference has been fantastic in the sense that to being shown that the lithium market is not dead, and despite the lithium market where it is today, the main thing about Galan is high-grade low impurity. So when we come into production, we could be facing, even if things don't change in 12 months, we'll be making money at the current prices. And that is the main difference that lithium brines can offer compared to hard rock producers that we say they're out in Australia. And the only one that's making money today is Greenbushes, which is an anomaly in the hard rock space. But we are next door to Rio Tinto, and we have big neighbors now. And we don't have anything different to them. The chemistry is exactly the same. We've been given a gift of nature with more grade, but we're quite excited in that in the next 12 months when I'll come back here to show that we have our first ton of lithium chloride exiting our mine site.
That would be very exciting. What percent ownership will Clean Elements have once they execute on the transaction?
They'll be around 16%.
16%. So that'll be your largest shareholder.
Correct.
By like a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. And who is Lithium, and like what is this plant? What's their background and credibility to build a carbonate plant in America?
Yep, Lithium is a private company from Australia. They initially were part of the they started with the Sentient Group, which was
Sentient owned Rincon.
Correct, and they developed the technology, DLE technology for Rio Tinto. They have all the learnings about nanofiltration. We're not doing the DLE, we're still using the ponds. All what we're changing is the liming plant and filtration plant for a very specific filtration plant. And we use a nanofiltration technology that exists today. The provider is a company that is very well known in the market. So we're not doing anything different there. And pretty much the story goes that once Rincon was acquired by Rio Tinto, the Rincon team from Sentient was asked not to participate in lithium for a long time. And that time has expired, and they decided to go with us.
Okay, that's great. So those are great validations of Galan as, again, a high-grade, advanced stage project in Brine in Argentina, conventional, and even in this down market, you've managed to attract significant capital. So for those who say, where's the capital coming from at the bottom of the market, there are some players out there that are picking winners, and they see one, I think, in Galan. So great. JP, thank you very much for the update, and hope to maybe catch up with you sooner than 1 year from now.
Absolutely, Howard. Yep.
Okay.
No, we'll update the market very soon. We are in the construction process, so news are going to start flowing from here onwards.
Okay, great. Thanks, JP.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're back with Gabriel Rubacha, the CEO of Nova Lithium Brines. We've interviewed you a few times this year, Gabriel, but you've had a little bit of news flow, I think, since we last had that. But you're an Argentine brine. Remind our viewers of your three projects and what the latest news was, and in general, what how this conference is going for you.
Yeah, we got three projects. Our flagship is Rio Grande, where we've been exploring, and we currently got close to 5 million tons LCE with an average concentration of 525 milligrams per liter. We are currently doing a PEA by Hatch, and we expect to get the reports out this project in a few months, Q3 this year. So we got high expectations on the report, on the numbers, and after that. But besides that, we got two other projects, Arizaro, where we got 80,000 hectares, that mining properties. It's the largest solar in Argentina. There are many projects exploring in Arizaro. We know that there's a lot of potential, probably not as high concentration as Rio Grande, but a lot of potential for large volumes. And then Salinas Grandes, where we got 10,000 hectares. We plan to explore as soon as we get more progress in Rio Grande. we believe that Salinas, the beauty of that is that the closeness to a town of San Antonio de los Cobres, so it's going to be very easy for its development at the beginning at least. So these are the three projects that we got, but for the time being our main focus is Rio Grande. We just announced fresh water discovery in the northern properties of Rio Grande. So as you
What's
know,
the import of that?
it's pretty important because having the fresh water within our properties for development is pretty important, and it's not only within our properties. We're planning to, based on the study that Hatch has been doing, we're planning to set our ponds and plant in the northeast of our properties where the highest porosity, highest concentration of brine is located, and the water discovery is pretty much in the same area, so it's concentrated all in the same area, so it's very strategically located, the water that we found, so it can be all concentrated in the same area.
Okay, and I don't know when the last time you were at this conference. You remind viewers that you were the CEO of Minera XR, which is the Chari Olaroz project, for a number of years, and then left to incubate NOAA Lithium Brines. So how are you finding the conference? What kind of meetings are you having? What's the interest level from the people that what's the nature of the people you're meeting, and the feedback?
I mean, since I would say that since last year, I would say the mood last year, I would say it was pretty pessimistic, I would say. This year, the mood didn't change much, but there is a little bit optimism. At least the people start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. People start seeing that the market is going to turn around sometime in the near future. When, nobody knows, but sometime in the near future it's going to turn around. Type of meetings that we're having: potential investors, potential partners, DLE technologies that are being developed. Even though we are trying to focus the development of Rio Grande in evaporation, we are evaluating other alternatives. But there's a lot of interest. I think that from last year to this year, I see a lot of more interest than in the last 12 months. I see a lot more interest.
Well, you last year when we met, or I don't know if it was here or elsewhere, you were struggling to kind of find some capital. You were financing the business yourself, but late last year, Clean Elements invested $10 million, and again, we just interviewed Galan. Clean Elements wrote another check, $20 million. So it's nice to see a family office out of Israel has looked at the world of lithium and basically chosen two high-grade Argentine brines as the place to be. What do you think about that?
No, I think that Clean Elements have been doing their own assessment. They are focusing in brines, at least for the time being. They are focusing in brines because they believe that is potentially the future, low OPEX, at least in the market conditions. And the future is not going to be, again, it's not going to go back to the 60 or 70 or whatever number close to those figures. So it's going to be more competitive. So brines will provide that competitiveness for production. So in his assessment offer, he said that he believes that brines will provide that platform. And he's very selective, and he chose NOAA and Galan because he believes that high concentration lithium projects are going to be also very important in the future. I personally believe that the market is going to be more selective in the coming months. It's not going to be any project like 2 years or 3 years ago, that any project was a big project to be acquired. So it's going to be more selective. And Singapore is seeing the same thing now.
Well, your stock is up year to date since he invested, and that's most companies can't say that, right? And we've mentioned that before. I guess just last question about just your Argentine economy-wise. I met with the Lithium Argentina team, and one of them told me that the OECD is predicting GDP to be like above 5%, and inflation has come down very aggressively. So I have a long experience with emerging market countries and countries who have taken very painful medicine like that which Milne has implemented. Usually around 2 years later, they come out the other side of it, and that seems to be the case. But the market doesn't seem to be paying attention to that so much as it pertains to lithium, but I think other stocks, Argentina as a country, investment destination. I think Stanley Druckenmiller, Soros's right-hand man for a long time, was buying a lot of stuff in Argentina. If you could just give us a frame of what's going on economically and politically, because I think there's scope, once lithium turns, for people to remember Argentina is a good place.
I think Argentina is a good place. I think it's yesterday in the podcast I had yesterday, I said Argentina right now got more opportunities than challenges. I think that in mining, in lithium in particular, I think that got more opportunities than challenges. Politically, we got elections this year. I think that I believe that the current administration is going to have a good opportunity. I think that they're gonna win more participation in the Congress, so that is gonna be good for the administration. It's not gonna have a majority, but they're gonna have more participation, which is gonna be good. Inflation, as you said, went down, but still there's a lot to be done. There's a lot of labor reforms. There's tax reform to be done. There's a lot of things to be done. And this administration wanted to do it. So if they are able to do it, it's going to be a completely different country. The stocks, energy stocks, have been going up significantly in the last, since Milne took over. So I think it's a good opportunity, and still a lot of opportunities in the next 2 years that Milne still got for the next election, presidential election, and got a good opportunity for the next 2 years. He's doing well. He got a good opportunities to continue. There's a lot of support for mining. Lithium is part of this mining activity. So I think again, it's a good opportunity. It's a country that is now it's a good time to see Argentina for investment.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Gabriel. On that optimistic note, we'll take a break.